Welcome to BookPilot, your destination for powerful ideas from the world's most impactful books. Today, we're exploring Morgan Housel's modern classic, The Psychology of Money, and we're going to unpack the ultimate paradox of wealth. We usually think of money as just a matter of math, right? Spreadsheets, formulas, cold, hard data. We're taught that achieving financial freedom requires this high-level degree, or deep connections on Wall Street, or just being an unshakable genius. But what if everything we've been taught about building wealth is entirely backward? What if the real secret to financial success has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and absolutely everything to do with how you behave? Well, let's dive into this explainer and look at a story that completely shatters our traditional assumptions about money. So take the stunning true story of Ronald Read. On paper, Ronald was not someone you would ever expect to end up in the history books of personal finance. He lived a very simple, quiet life as a janitor. Yet, when he passed away in 2014, he shocked absolutely everyone who knew him by leaving behind an estate worth $8 million. Now, you might be wondering, how in the world does a janitor amass that kind of fortune? Well, he didn't win the lottery, he didn't inherit some massive trust fund. He achieved this simply by saving consistently throughout his entire life and letting the quiet, invisible power of compound interest do the heavy lifting for him. Ronald Read is living proof that you don't need a diploma from Harvard to become incredibly wealthy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core thesis of Morgan Housel's work. Financial success is not a hard science, it's a soft skill, where how you behave is way more important than what you know. Acquiring and keeping wealth is fundamentally a psychological battle. It's all about emotional control, resisting those primal urges, and really understanding your own biases. So, over the next few minutes, we're going to master this soft skill by walking through the vital behavioral challenges that every successful investor has to overcome.
Let's start with Section 1, the hidden fee of investing.
To really understand the psychological toll of participating in the stock market, we kind of have to talk about how we view the price of things. Imagine you want to buy a brand new luxury watch to impress your friends or someone you're dating. You go to the store and you're presented with a choice. You can either pay the price on the tag or you can try to steal it and run. Naturally, you're going to choose that first option. You take out your card and you swipe it because you understand that owning a premium item requires paying a premium price of admission. Well, the stock market works exactly the same way, but the currency you're paying with isn't just cash, it's emotional endurance. In the market, the price of long-term wealth is volatility. It is a fee you must pay, not a fine for doing something wrong.
Let's dramatize this hidden fee for a second to really understand its weight. Imagine it's about a decade ago, and you successfully predict the massive, bright future of Netflix. You invest a huge portion of your net worth into it. Today, you'd be incredibly rich, right? But could you have actually paid the emotional fee required for that journey? See, in 2011, Netflix lost a massive amount of customers, and the stock plummeted by 80% from its peak in the ensuing months. Your portfolio returns would have looked absolutely terrifying. Could you stomach facing your spouse and kids, knowing your life savings had dropped that far? Could you have just sat still in the boat? This extreme volatility is the literal fee for incredible return.
Now you might be thinking, well, okay, I just won't invest in single stocks. I'll buy a safe, broadly diversified index fund. But here's the thing, even the safest routes charge this fee. If you bought an S&P 500 index fund in 1980 and just held it, you would have spent a combined 13 years with your portfolio down 20% from its all-time high. You would have spent a combined 8 months down 50%. That is a grueling emotional tax. But you have to look at this volatility not as a disaster, but simply as the admission ticket for a brighter financial future.
Section 2, the endless envy trap and social comparison.
Once you manage to conquer the market's volatility, you have to conquer your own mind. Because capitalism is incredibly good at two things: generating wealth and generating envy. Look at Bill. He's a highly specialized doctor making $500,000 a year. By any metric, Bill is rich. He buys a house in the Hamptons, feels great about himself, until he meets his neighbor, Stan. Stan is a CEO making $10 million a year. Suddenly, Bill feels totally inadequate. But is Stan happy? No. Because Stan is childhood friends with Michael Jordan, who is worth around $2 billion. Next to Jordan, Stan's $10 million feels like absolute peanuts. But wait, it doesn't even end there. Jordan goes to parties with Jeff Bezos, who is worth around $200 billion and can increase his net worth by $75 billion in a single year. The point is, no matter how high you climb, there is always a bigger fish.
If you don't define what enough is for yourself, this endless comparison will destroy you. The destructive costs of financial envy are written all over history. People have overleveraged their portfolios to the absolute teeth just to jump to the next wealth bracket, only to lose it all. Others have acted on illegal insider information, ruining their reputations and ending up in prison. People literally forsake their families, abandon their marriages, and destroy their lives simply because they couldn't handle someone else having a little bit more. We absolutely must learn to accept when enough is enough, or that envy will just consume our success.
Section 3. Rationalizing the unreasonable.
When we look at how other people spend their money, it's very easy to judge. But we really have to understand that financial decisions are shaped by wildly different life experiences. Take this eye-opening example. The lowest income households in the US spend more than $400 a year on lottery tickets. That's 4 times more than the highest income bracket. Yet at the very same time, over a third of Americans cannot come up with $400 for an emergency. On the surface, taking your only emergency buffer and spending it on lottery tickets seems completely irrational. It seems crazy, right? But remember, crazy is in the eye of the beholder. If you live paycheck to paycheck, with no clear career trajectory, no college savings, and no realistic way to ever afford a vacation or a new car, you aren't just buying a piece of paper. You are buying a dream. You are buying the feeling of hope that many wealthier people already live out in reality. When you look through their lens, it suddenly makes a whole lot of sense.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that acknowledging these different perspectives prevents us from making terrible financial mistakes. You have to play your own game and not copy theirs. A billionaire's investment strategy might be entirely focused on wealth preservation, while you might be focused on wealth creation. Copying them would be disastrous for your specific goals. Or think about the recent GameStop trading frenzy. If you aren't a day trader, getting swept up in that drama is playing someone else's game. You've got to stick to your own risk profile and your own circle of competence.
Section 4. Surviving the unforeseeable.
Okay, now that we've covered the internal mindsets, let's address the external realities of investing. What do the Great Depression, World War II, the financial crises, and COVID-19 all have in common? They were all what author Nassim Taleb calls black swans. A black swan is an extreme outlier event. Literally nothing in history could have convincingly pointed to its possibility. It carries a massive, landscape-altering societal or economic impact. And here is the trickiest part. It becomes explainable only after the fact. Human nature constantly fools us into believing we could have seen the disaster coming, but the mathematical reality is that the biggest market disasters are just impossible to predict.
And because we can't predict them, trying to jump in and out of the market to dodge them is incredibly dangerous. Just look at this staggering statistic. If you invested in the S&P 500 index over a 20-year period, but you happen to miss just the 4 best performing stock market days, your return would drop from 291% down to a mere 164%. Think about that for a second. Missing just 4 days over 2 decades nearly halves your total returns. This is exactly why you cannot panic and sell when the black swan arrives.
Therefore, the ultimate lesson here is to prepare financially and stop predicting macroeconomically. Stop listening to the talking heads on TV making these wild economic projections. The events that will truly shift the market are the ones absolutely no one is talking about. Build a robust personal financial buffer, keep your emotions in check, and focus on simply surviving the unpredictable storms rather than trying to outsmart them.
Section 5. The optimist's hidden advantage.
This brings us to our final internal battle, and it's a really fascinating one. In the world of finance, there's a strange intellectual seduction when it comes to pessimism. Why is it that the pessimist always sounds so much smarter than the optimist? If someone tells you the market is going to crash due to massive government debt or some new strain of a virus, you instantly lean in. But if they tell you life expectancy is rising and green energy is getting cheaper, you kind of just shrug your shoulders. The Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains this through evolutionary biology. He says organisms that treat threats as more urgent than opportunities have a better chance to survive and reproduce. We are literally hardwired by evolution to obsess over bad news, because back in the day, ignoring a threat used to mean death. Beyond evolution, it's also a matter of pacing. Setbacks and tragedies happen rapidly, often overnight, making them highly dramatic and super easy to build a captivating story around. Progress, on the other hand, happens incredibly slowly, over long time horizons. A stock market crash happens in a day. The steady compounding of global wealth happens over decades, which honestly just feels vague and boring. But you must recognize this evolutionary illusion. The broader trajectory of human innovation and the markets is overwhelmingly positive. Don't let the seductive intelligence of pessimism rob you of the quiet, undeniable reality of optimism.
So let's tie all of these threads together. Morgan Housel's central message is crystal clear. Your behavior dictates your wealth. To excel in the soft skill of investing, you must follow these core pillars. You have to accept market volatility as the required fee for admission. You must escape the envy trap by clearly defining what enough means for you. You have to respect that different people play different financial games, so focus entirely on your own lane. You must build a portfolio that can survive black swans rather than trying to predict them. And finally, you have to fight your primal instincts and recognize the evolutionary illusion of pessimism.
Ultimately, the whole shebang boils down to this single, profound truth for financial contentment. Don't risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Master your behavior and the math will take care of itself. So ask yourself, moving forward, are you going to keep playing the market's game, or are you finally ready to start playing your own? If you enjoyed this audiobook summary and want to discover more powerful ideas from great books, subscribe to BookPilot and stay tuned for more.